Do you ever find yourself wanting more Ultrakill? Are you doomed to play the same boss fights over and over and over again? And although a great game, after the 200 hours you've poured into it, is Ultrakill perhaps getting stale? No? The fuck are you doing here then? Go play the game. Well, if yes, then you've come to the right place because I've compiled 3 games that will make you forget that you're waiting on that next Ultrakill update. And why 3, you may ask? Well, that's because I can't be bothered to spend more money than I already have. Before we start, I'd like to give a huge thanks to everyone coming from my first video, which you were able to get to 24,000 views. It's insane to me that that many people watched that video and enjoyed it. So once again, thank you. With that said, let's get on with it. We've spent so much time on the intro, it's almost dusk. Come on, you gotta admit, that was pretty cool. Dusk is a game mainly inspired by the few original boomer shooters, those being Doom and Quake. It practically has the same roots as Ultrakill, and they're very much apparent in the gameplay, although Dusk takes a much simpler approach to the genre it tackles. While Ultrakill takes a lot of creative liberties and creates a new spin on the genre, Dusk is much more grounded in its roots. For example, the weapons aren't nearly as complex. You have a wide assortment of weapons that are all suited for different purposes. The shotguns are for close range, the hunting rifle is for long range, the rocket launcher is for groups of enemies. You get the point. The difference between the weapons here and the ones in Ultrakill is that these ones don't really interact with each other. They have no synergies together, and that's fine because they don't need to. The gunplay is simple, yet very effective and satisfying. You could also say the same for the movement. It's very similar to many games like Quake, Half-Life, and Counter-Strike, where b-hopping and strafing are the main ways to gain speed. Although here it's much more accessible to the average player, because all you really need to do is start jumping to the side, and you immediately start gaining momentum. The only other movement options you have are really just weapon tech, like rocket jumping and maybe crossbow flying? I don't know what to call this one. That's basically all there is to it. I mean, you can also do backflips for no apparent reason. It is cool as hell though. Besides the movement, where I think the game shines the most is in its atmosphere and level design. The game is separated into 3 episodes, with each one containing 11 levels. It starts off relatively tame, having you explore farmlands, churches, and generally normal looking areas, but as the game goes on, things start to take a darker turn. You go from research facilities to gothic castles with monsters and eldritch horrors around every corner. The game knows when to raise the stakes and let you go in guns blazing, and when to flip the tone on its head and make you pause and think. The room I'm in is empty, so why do I hear something breathing? If I did have to critique the game, I would say that the boss fights can be pretty disappointing at times. They're not necessarily bad, they're just kind of boring. With the exception of a few cool fights, a good amount are just scaled up versions of regular enemies. That said, the core strengths of Dusk lie in its atmosphere, level design, and movement, so the slightly underwhelming bosses don't really affect the overall experience. Even though they aren't the most thrilling encounters, they serve their purpose. But now, let's move on to our next. Picture this. The game is set in a cyberpunk city in the year 2095 and is based on a 90s anime. You, Jack Banhammer, yes, that's his actual name, are a moderator, and it's your job to save the influencer princess from Mr. Bullet, an evil robot billionaire, voiced by Gianni! Mullet Madjack is a fast-paced arcade-like shooter that's way too fast for my brain to handle. This game's gimmick is that your lifespan is tied to a live stream, and to keep living, you have to keep the audience entertained. You have a lifespan of exactly 10 seconds, and every kill you get gives you back some time. Levels can vary in length, but they're usually in the 20 to 50 second range. At the end of a level, you can choose an upgrade, and every 10 levels, you fight a boss and are given a checkpoint. There are about 80 levels total, and if you do the math, you'll realize that this game isn't that long. I finished the main campaign in about 3 hours, and in the case of Mullet Madjack, I think that's a good thing. The gameplay can get very repetitive because, well, every level is practically the same thing. Yes, of course, every 10 floors the game introduces new enemies and environmental hazards, but the core gameplay loop remains the same. Although, during my playthrough of the main campaign and extra content the game has to offer, it never really got boring. That's because the game knows when to give you a little break from the core loop, and it does this in plenty of ways. The cutscenes are pretty charming and hook you onto the story even more. The boss fights, although I personally thought were mostly piss easy, did still shake up the game a little. And the jokes and gags scattered throughout the game did have me chuckling every once in a while. All of these take you away from the main course and give you a little side dish to worry about, which in turn constantly keeps the game fresh. It also helped that the story, although basic, is very reminiscent of the tropes a 90s anime would have. It very successfully envelops you into the world they've created. The main character even says this:
like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey man, he said it, not me. You should probably do it though. Oh, and also, V2 is in this game, but he looks like this and you get to fight him. Yeah, I didn't really know where to fit that, so here he is. I guess Hakita was wrong. They did end up reconstructing him.
Maybe someone like reconstructs his reconstructs what?
There's nothing left. Sinners plucked from hell to do God's dirty work. But I'm finding it hard to believe we're in heaven.
Neon white.
Neon White is a fast-paced first-person
Yeah, okay.
shooter.
We've heard fast-paced, movement, and shooter like 3 times by now. Let's just get to the point. In Neon White, you take the role of an assassin named White, who has been sent to heaven to compete against other deceased souls called Neons. These Neons, with the most important ones to the story, being red, yellow, purple, and green, are tasked with eliminating demons that threaten heaven's peace to earn a place in the afterlife. However, White is an amnesiac, and throughout the game he slowly finds out about his past and the true intentions of the believers currently leading heaven. But the story is not where the game shines. One could argue that's where the game falls off, but we'll get to that in due time. Where the game shines is how it makes you approach its gameplay. To dumb it down, you have to kill all the demons using the game's main gimmick, that being its card-based gun system. Each card can be used either as a weapon or discarded for a movement ability. The pistol makes you double jump, the rifle makes you dash, the rocket shoots out a grappling hook, and the rest of the cards have equally as unique abilities. Now with all this in mind, you have to beat each level in as little time as possible. What I'm about to say has most definitely been said in every video about this game, but I have to mention that this game quite literally shapes you into a speedrunner, and it does this through its insight system. Your insight will increase depending on how fast you complete a level. The more insight you have, the more the game tells you about said level. Here, we get introduced to the medals. Getting the bronze medal doesn't really matter because you get it no matter what. All it does is that it unlocks the ability to see your friend's high scores next to yours. Getting the silver medal allows you to see the ghost of your best run, so you can see while you're playing the level if you are doing better or worse compared to the best version of yourself. Getting the gold medal, the game shows you a shortcut you might have missed before, many times only shaving off a few seconds, but those few are enough to get you to the final medal, the diamond ace medal, giving you access to the global leaderboard, awarded after practically a perfect run. Except not really. There's actually a secret 5th medal, that being the red developer medal. You've beaten the devs at their own game, and now you truly have the perfect run. Except that there are still about 45,000 people faster than you. So, a bit earlier in the video, I said one could argue that the story is where the game falls off, and I'd like to address that. When people mention the game's faults, the story is often brought up as the #1 problem. But what they actually mean is that the dialogue is bad. The story, although somewhat generic, is interesting enough and kept me engaged throughout the whole game. The dialogue, on the other hand, can be a bit...
You are my Sasuke, man! The darkness to my light!
I said, is it White's flat ass? You're so lucky you don't have big boobs, White. They get it the worst.
I think cringy wouldn't be too much of a stretch. Although yes, what you just saw was horrendous. Maybe a hot take here, but I think it actually kind of works for this game. The developers obviously did this on purpose. The stupidity of the dialogue is so bad, it loops back around to being funny again. I found myself laughing at the stupid ass conversations these characters were having multiple times throughout the game. All the characters can be pretty fun to interact with, and I did really like the way the game lets you develop your relationship with them. Basically, there are presents hidden around the maps of most of the levels, and after finding them and giving them to their respective characters, you'll either be rewarded with some extra dialogue, side missions, and most importantly, forgotten memories that are required to get the game's true ending. If I had to pick my favorite from these three, I'd definitely end up choosing Neon White. But in the end, when I'm finally fully done with all these games, Ultrakill will be waiting right there for me, hopefully with a new update. As a matter of fact, the devs did say that Fraud would be releasing sometime early 2026, so pretty much right now. Any second now. Who am I kidding? If anyone needs me, I'll be playing my gambling simulator. See you next time.